Zach, Penn State's favored in this one, 11.5. Boise State, over Boise State. Over under is 52.5 in this one. Vegas, obviously, very much favoring Penn State as they were with SMU. This is going to be a tougher test than SMU, though, even though it's not at home or anything like that. This is going to be a neutral site game. Penn State will not have the crowd behind them. Zach, what's your thoughts going into this game? Does Boise State have a chance in this one? Is Penn State just, far and away the favorite? What's your thoughts on this one?
I think Penn State has to be careful because I think I think they got very fortunate with SMU, right? SMU, they came in, Kevin Jennings was clearly rattled. They missed that 4th and 1. You can play the hypothetical game all you want, but the reality is Kevin Jennings hits that 4th and 1 throw. It's 7-0. Penn State's offense wasn't doing anything. And my concern is, do they kind of start in a funk again after, 10 days off and having to travel and not being at home? So I think that could be rough. And I think Ashton Jeanty is the type of player that it doesn't matter what team he's on. He's going to make plays. We saw it against Oregon, right? He had over 200 yards against the Ducks. And granted, that was, I think, early in the season. They were a little discombobulated. But I think there's real danger if Penn State goes down, 7-10, 14-0 early. And then all of a sudden they have to play catch up. And while they were able to do it against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, I think there were some circumstances there that aided them to a degree. But I don't like Penn State's roster from the standpoint of, oh, you're down 14-0. You have to catch up. And Boise State has a player, unlike SMU, Boise State has a player that can make you pay and go 75 yards at any point. So that's my big concern in this game is, does Penn State have another slow start? And if so, does Boise State capitalize? If they do, the pressure then fully mounts on Penn State because you're the favorite. Everyone's told you have the easiest path to the playoff. Drew Aller did not play well last time out. But the cold affects everybody. It ain't going to be cold in the Fiesta Bowl.
No, it's not.
So yeah, go. You take it. Do you take it?
No, it's not. And that was something that I was going to talk about was, Penn State's offense, they will need to score in this one, in my mind, because Boise State's not going to turn the ball over and give away free points the way SMU was able to do. SMU, maybe they are better than Boise State. I don't know, but they threw the ball so much, and Penn State was able to capitalize on pick sixes and get those turnovers where Penn State's offense never really had to win the game for them in this one. Yeah. In this one, Boise State is not going to allow Penn State to just get turnovers, score, and make it easy from there. Yeah. Boise State is going to make Penn State have to drive the distance of the field, or at least a good amount of distance of the field, and win this game. And so this is where it comes down to Drew Aller, who did not have the best game last time, whether it was the cold, or he didn't trust his wide receivers, or he didn't want to give the game away. I mean, I've heard so many different things. Like, whatever reason it was, I mean, Zach, in that game, he had 5 passes of 10 yards or more. He didn't throw a single ball 20 yards or 20 yards deep or more. Like, yep. He was very, very conservative in that last game, whether it was because the cold or he didn't want to give the game away again. Like I said, there's so many different things out there. But at the end of the day, like, Drew Aller is going to have a game similar to what he had against Oregon, where he is dealing, he's throwing the ball around, and he's making plays, because Boise State's not going to give it up to him. And at the same time, Boise State, as much as they are a Group of 5 team, like, they're second in the nation in sacks. 51 sacks, like I said earlier in the show, 51 sacks on the year. If this Penn State offensive line is not prepared for that, you could see pressure on Drew Aller in this one that could inhibit him from making plays. I think he got sacked 3 times against SMU. You can't let that happen in this game. the Penn State offensive line has got to be better. And some of that, was Drew Aller being indecisive and what he was doing as well. So I'm not putting all of it on the offensive line. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying here is Penn State's offense is going to have to move the ball. They're not going to be bailed out by Boise State giving the ball away like SMU did and all that kind of stuff. Penn State is going to have their offense move the ball on Boise State. I think they can running the ball because guess what, Zach? Boise State is awful at tackling. I mean, just putrid. Awful.
Yep.
Their edges and one of their defensive tackles, Feely, they all have missed tackle rates of 25% plus.
Mm-hmm.
Both of their edges and one of their defensive tackles, which, these guys do oftentimes get some missed tackles because, they're being blocked while they're trying to tackle, but still, that's really high. And then 3 of Boise State's safeties would rank in the top 7 in missed tackle rate in the Big Ten. And that's with them being in the Mountain West. You don't see a whole lot of freaky athletes make you miss type of guys. In my mind, this is not a game that Drew Aller is going to go out and declare himself the best quarterback and all this stuff. This is a game where Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen show why they are still one of the best duo running backs in the nation, because you really haven't seen it as much lately. You saw it their freshman year, but not as much lately. And you see Boise State really struggle to tackle those two guys because Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, even though they've not shown, I still believe they are both very, very good, and they showed it in that SMU game. But yeah, that's my thought. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I think something to watch out for. Penn State defending the run is 7th in the country at just a hair over 100 yards per game. And they rush the ball for over 200 yards per carry and 5.3 yards per carry. Or 200 yards per game, 5.3 yards per carry. I don't think Boise has faced a running back tandem like this with an offensive line like this. And I say that knowing that they played Oregon, because Oregon was still trying to figure out offensive line combinations at that point. Oregon was not the Oregon that we know today. I think between that and play action, and Kotelnicki's offensive creativity, I don't think Boise State will be able to slow down Penn State's attack. I think Boise gets an early score, but I think Penn State knows the pathway to victory here is unlike SMU. I think with SMU, it was like, let Kevin Jennings go hot and cold and let him essentially let us win the game. Let him throw the game to us, basically. I think they know that they've got to be the bully in this game. If they get up 2 or 3 scores, it's over. Mm-hmm. Because outside of Jeanty, Boise State doesn't have the personnel to keep up. Like Maddox Madsen he's a nice player. Camper on the outside, he's a nice player.
Camper who played at IU last year,
yeah,
IU was not good last year.
Yeah,
good. This is their star wide receiver who played at IU.
Yeah, and he was a good player for IU. He's been a good player for Boise State, but he's not Penn State needs to play like the elite team that they want to be known as, and I think they will. I think it's going to be I think this will be the most lopsided out of all the playoff games in the second round.
So what's your score prediction then?
I'm going to go 38-13.
Wow.
Penn State.
Okay. I have this one a little bit closer. I think that there's going to be a lot of running the ball, so I don't think it's going to be as high scoring because of how much they're going to be running the ball. I think that Penn State needs to jump out in front quickly, but I just don't know if I see them doing that as quickly. But I think overall at the end of the day, Penn State's defense wins out against Ashton Jeanty, who has had an amazing year. And I'm not trying to disrespect him at all. He's had an amazing year, and he's had, he deserved to be second in the Heisman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're going to see Penn State load the box. I think it was Penn State guy who said, they might even switch up their defense, run more of a 4-3 instead of a 4-2. I don't know. All I know is they're going to load that box because if you're Penn State, you can't be afraid of the wide receivers on the outside. Now, maybe Cam Camper makes some amazing plays and we see something happen, and that's how Boise State wins. I don't think that's how they win, but I just don't think it's likely. I think it's most likely Penn State loads the box, Boise State tries their best to run, and then they're just not able to do it. In Penn State, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen are able to run. Drew Aller, I don't think he'll have a bad game, but I don't think he'll put up, like massive stats that where it's like, oh, Drew Aller is one of the best players, because I don't think that's what you need to do in this game. With Boise State's inability to tackle, with everything else going into it, like Penn State should be able to run the ball. It's going to be a little bit closer because I think Boise State will have a little bit of success at the end of the game with maybe a tired down defense, but I think this will kind of be like the Indiana Notre Dame game where it's a 10-point margin, but pretty decisively Penn State wins the game. I'm going to go 27-17 Penn State.
Ooh.
Exact same score as the Notre Dame Indiana game.
That's fair.
But like that game, it won't seem like a close game because Penn State will win it.
Yep.
So. All right. Did we get score predictions? I apologize, guys. I wasn't watching the chat as much in this one.
PSU Jim had 35-17 Penn State over Boise State. 35-17.
There we go. Penn State is going to put a lot of points on Boise State's defense. Penn State 35, Boise State 17. Listen, if the tackling is that bad and they're able to run all over them, I think they will. They could put a lot of points on them. We'll have to see. Yep. So,